By the time morning truly arrived, not the artificial glow of a gas station canopy, but real daylight rolling over the desert, I'd already been back on the road for a few hours. The tank was full again. The engine had returned to its steady, comforting hum. The highway stretched out ahead in a long, pale line. But something had changed. Not in the road, not in the truck. In the space between me and whatever I was hauling behind me. That strange cargo I'd shared the night with in the desert didn't feel like ordinary freight anymore. After the engine died, after I walked through the warm darkness with a fuel can in my hand, after that soft glow under the trailer door, it felt like some kind of quiet understanding had formed between us. I still didn't know what was inside, but I was almost certain it wasn't just cargo. It felt like someone's story, someone's past, maybe even, in a way, someone's life. The sun climbed slowly, painting the horizon in layers of pale gold and soft pink. The desert, which had been a dark ocean at night, now looked almost gentle. Low waves of sand, sparse bushes, a few scattered rocks catching the light. I drove without hurry. The instructions for this load were clear. Keep it moving, keep it steady, no long stops unless necessary. It wasn't about speed, it was about rhythm. The dispatcher had reminded me on the phone before the trip. Time sensitive, but not a race. Just don't leave it sitting around. Fuel, rest, routine checks, that's fine. But no unnecessary delays. And don't break the seal. Don't open the trailer. That part's important. He hadn't sounded threatening, just very insistent. I thought about that conversation as I glanced in my mirrors. The white box of the trailer rolled calmly behind me, catching the morning sun. No glow now, no knocks, just quiet. But it didn't feel like an empty quiet. I turned the radio back on at a low volume. Soft instrumental music floated into the cab, a lazy blend of jazz and ambient, nothing too present, just a slow background current. It mixed nicely with the deep vibration of the diesel and the gentle hiss of the tires. My mind drifted back to the moment the engine had shut off in the desert, when we'd coasted silently to the sandy shoulder and stopped, to the feeling of stepping onto the warm pavement under that huge star-filled sky, a fuel can swinging at my side, to the sight of the trailer's marker lights glowing behind me like a small, patient ship anchored in a dark bay, and to the 3 soft knocks that had come from inside just before I'd walked away, like someone telling me, in their own quiet language, "I know you're going. I'll be here when you come back." At the time, the night had been too calm for fear, so I took it in stride. But in the clear light of day, it stood out as something unusual. I caught myself smiling faintly. "If you really are something alive back there," I said softly into the empty cab, "you've got good timing. We made it." The trailer didn't answer, of course. It just bumped gently over a small ripple in the road. Closer to late morning, a sign popped up, a town exit in a few miles. In my mind, I could already see it, a little roadside diner with coffee that tasted stronger than it smelled, fried eggs, hash browns, and maybe a glass front fridge full of cold drinks. I felt the pleasant weight of a slight tiredness in my shoulders and decided a short break would do us both good, me and the truck. The cargo, I figured, wouldn't mind. "Coffee and a slice of pie," I murmured. 5-10 minutes. Sounds about right. Almost without thinking, I glanced up at the mirror, as if checking with someone. "You okay with that?" I asked under my breath. For just a second, the trailer's white panel flashed a bit brighter as it caught the sun. Easy to blame it on angle and reflection. Still, there was something in me that took it as a simple, silent yes. I eased the truck off the main highway and onto a smaller road. The asphalt here was more worn, faint cracks, patches, gentle dips. The diner appeared exactly as I'd imagined. A single-story building with a fading sign. A few old fuel pumps out front. 2 other trucks already parked off to the side. I pulled in and chose a spot where the tractor and trailer would be easy to see from the diner windows. Habit mostly, but this time it also felt considerate. Before stepping out, I paused with my hand on the door handle and looked into the side mirror again. "I'll be quick," I said quietly. "Promise." Silence. But it wasn't the cold kind. It was the kind of silence you get when someone trusts you enough not to ask for details. Inside, the air was cool. An old air conditioner hummed steadily, and the place smelled like coffee, pancakes, and a little bit of bacon grease that had lived there for years. On the walls, there were photos, smiling truckers, families in road trip t-shirts, dusty pickups in front of sunsets. I sat at a table near the window, ordered black coffee, eggs, and a slice of apple pie. From where I sat, I had a clear view of my rig, cab, trailer, the whole length of it glowing softly in the sun. While I waited, I found myself staring at the back of the trailer, at the doors, at the small space where the doors met the frame at the bottom. For the briefest moment, I saw it again. That same kind of faint, almost invisible light. Just a whisper of a glow under the door where no light should have been. I narrowed my eyes. In an instant, it was gone. The waitress set down my plate and mug. "Everything all right?" she asked, glancing toward the window like she was trying to see what had caught my attention. "Yeah," I said with a small smile. "Just making sure my load doesn't decide to roll off without me." She chuckled. "If those trailers ever start driving themselves," she said, "you truckers are gonna be busier than ever chasing them down." I laughed with her, then took a sip of coffee. Hot, a little bitter, exactly what I needed. A bite of pie followed. Warm apple, soft crust, cinnamon. Simple comforts. By the time I looked back out the window again, the trailer was just a trailer. Sun on metal. Nothing more to see. But the feeling stayed with me. Somewhere inside that sealed box, behind those locked doors, something was waiting. Not impatiently, not angrily, just waiting. After the break, the highway welcomed me back like an old friend. The miles began to slide under the tires again, one by one, then in easy, measured groups. The desert slowly gave way to sparser stretches of land. A barn here, a windmill there, long fence lines dissecting distant fields. The air changed almost imperceptibly, still dry, but with a hint of earth and grass. The delivery address on my paperwork was vague. Research and storage facility, out past the edge of a modest town, near nothing in particular. No company logo that meant anything to me, no fancy tagline, just coordinates and a name. As I got closer, I realized something unexpected. I didn't really want this trip to be over. Most loads are just work. You pick them up. You drop them off. Sometimes they're memorable because of the weather, or some bad traffic, or a good diner along the way, but the cargo itself just is. This one was different. I thought about the gentle knocks at the worst moment of the night, about the soft line of light on the gas station shoulder, about how, when the tank ran dry in the middle of nowhere, I hadn't felt alone. Maybe that was just exhaustion drawing shapes in the dark. Or maybe, every once in a while, a driver ends up sharing a run with something that has a little more presence. Either way, I couldn't deny it. It felt less like I was hauling boxes and more like I'd been escorting someone. By the time the sun leaned toward late afternoon, the turnoff finally appeared. There was no big corporate sign, no flashy branding, just a simple metal board with a name and an address, a paved access road, and beyond that a fence with a gate and a guard booth. Inside the fence, I saw a cluster of low buildings, not tall warehouses, but wide, flat-roofed structures, white and clean, functional rather than decorative. I slowed the truck and rolled up to the booth. The guard took my paperwork, scanned it with a practiced eye, and clicked through something on his screen. "All right," he said pleasantly, handing the folder back. "You're going to Bay 3, just inside that big building on the left. They're expecting you. Don't break the seal yourself. They'll handle it." "Understood," I said. As I drove onto the lot, I checked the mirrors again. The trailer followed smoothly. No sway, no unusual creaks. That attentive silence seemed to deepen, though, like whatever was inside knew we were close. I backed up to the assigned bay with the easy familiarity that comes from years of similar maneuvers. The bumpers touched soft, the truck settled, and I set the brake. A man in a light lab coat, overworked clothes walked up as I climbed down from the cab. He looked more like a technician than a doctor. Comfortable boots, clipboard, pin tucked behind one ear. He gave me a friendly nod. "You the one who almost ran out of fuel in the desert last night?" he asked. "Yeah," I said with a small grin. "If your system shows a little gap in the middle of a long, empty stretch, that would be me." Something relaxed in his expression. Not just politeness, actual relief. "We were tracking the route," he admitted. "Saw you slow down and stop for a while. Good to see you and the trailer here in one piece. This shipment matters to a lot of people." He said it gently, but I could hear the weight behind the words. Usually, this is the part where I hand off the keys metaphorically and walk away to sort out my next run. But when he mentioned the trailer, I felt a quiet tug inside. "Do you need me to stay for the unloading?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Not required," he said, "but you're welcome to observe. We're going to unseal and verify contents as soon as you're ready." I didn't even hesitate. "I'll stay," I said. We walked around to the back of the trailer together. The metal doors had cooled a bit in the afternoon air, but they still held some of the day's heat. The seal hung there, intact, the number on it perfectly matching the one on my manifest. The technician inspected it closely, then looked at me. "Everything went all right with the trailer? No accidents, no sudden braking?" I thought of the desert night, the empty tank, the quiet knocks. "We had one interesting moment," I said softly. "But the rig stayed upright, the trailer stayed closed, and the cargo didn't go anywhere it wasn't supposed to." He nodded slowly, as if that answer meant more to him than it might to anyone else. He cut the seal carefully, almost respectfully, then unlatched the heavy door locks. The metal handles clinked in the quiet air. "Stand a little to the side," he advised out of pure habit, just in case something shifted inside. I stepped back half a pace and watched. He grabbed the handle and pulled. The door swung open with a long, low creak. I half expected a rush of cold air, or light, or sound, something dramatic to match what I'd felt on the road. Instead, the inside of the trailer was dim and still, shadows pooling in the corners. The technician looked in first, scanning with a practiced eye. Then he flipped on a small flashlight and motioned me closer. What I saw was not what I'd expected. No stacks of boxes, no pallets of machinery. Bolted to the floor of the trailer was a single, large crate, more like an enclosed chamber than a box. It had smooth sides, softly rounded edges, and a series of faint lines across its surface like it had been assembled in layers. Faint, almost invisible patterns traced across it. Not letters, not symbols I recognized. More like curves and lines that suggested constellations or the paths of planets on a star chart. At the base of the crate, near one corner, a small indicator glowed with a soft, familiar light. The same kind of light I'd seen under the trailer door. Gentle, pale, calm, life support stable. The technician murmured, more to himself than to me. Good, very good. He reached out and touched the side of the crate with his fingertips, almost reverently. Still warm, he said. That's a good sign too. I looked from him to the crate and back again. Life support, I repeated quietly, careful not to disturb the moment. He hesitated, then gave me a small, tired smile. You've brought us something very precious, he said. That's all I'm really allowed to say. My eyes lingered on the glowing indicator. It pulsed slowly, in and out, like a breath. In, out, in, out. Just like the glow that had met me in the desert, on the roadside shoulder, when the engine died. Just like the little light I'd imagined beneath my eyelids as I fell asleep in the cab. Is it alive? I asked softly. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he laid his palm flat on the surface of the crate. For a brief second, it seemed like a faint shimmer passed under his hand, then vanished. Alive enough, he said at last. Alive enough that it needed you to keep moving, to not give up in the middle of nowhere. He turned to look at me fully. His expression was calm, but his eyes were bright, like someone standing at the edge of a long-awaited moment. We've been waiting for this to arrive in one piece for a very long time, he continued quietly. A lot of people had their part to play. Last night, in that desert, for a little while, it was just you. I didn't quite know what to say to that, so I just watched the crate. From somewhere deep inside it, I thought I felt, not heard, not saw, but felt a response. A tiny shift, a soft echo, like someone turning their head slightly in sleep. The technician and his team started securing the crate for removal. Clamps, padded braces, a lift device that rose smoothly from the floor of the bay like it lived there. They moved around it with the careful grace of people handling something both delicate and priceless. I stepped back out of the trailer and stood there on the concrete, hands in my pockets, watching quietly as they worked. When the crate was finally lifted free and eased onto a wheeled platform, the technician walked over to me again. "We'll take it from here," he said. "But if it means anything to you, without you finishing that run, this wouldn't be happening." I thought of the fuel light blinking on in the darkest part of the night, of the moment the engine went silent and the truck rolled to a stop, of the walk along the empty highway, the can in my hand, the stars overhead, and that faint, impossible glow under the trailer door. "Funny thing," I said softly, "out there, when the tank ran dry, I didn't feel alone." He studied my face for a moment, then nodded slightly. "I doubt you were," he replied. We stood in quiet for a few seconds, listening to the soft sounds of the crate being moved, the gentle squeak of the wheels, the low hiss of hydraulic equipment, the murmur of distant voices. As they rolled it toward a large inner door, the glowing indicator on its side pulsed a little brighter for just a moment. 2 slow beats of light. It almost felt like someone had turned to look back. "Thanks," the light seemed to say, in a language made of rhythm and glow instead of words. Then the inner door opened, washing the crate in a different, whiter light, and they eased it through. The door closed behind them with a soft, final sound. The indicator light disappeared from view. Later, after the paperwork was signed, after the last signatures were in place and the trailer was officially empty, I walked back out to the truck. The trailer felt lighter now, not just physically. I climbed into the cab, sat for a moment with my hands resting loosely on the wheel, and looked in the mirror at the blank interior of the yard behind me. The building that had swallowed the crate sat there quietly, giving away nothing. The dispatcher's next assignment was already waiting on my phone. A normal haul from a warehouse to a distribution center. Ordinary freight, ordinary miles. I started the engine. The diesel grumbled awake, settled quickly into its familiar, soothing rhythm. Before I put the truck in gear, I spoke into the empty space behind me one last time. "I don't know where you're going," I said softly, "or what comes next for you, but I'm glad I got to carry you through that night." No knocks came in response this time, no glow under any doors, and yet the cab felt just a little warmer. I pulled away from the bay and headed back toward the main gate. The guard raised it with a lazy wave. The highway waited on the other side, stretching out in a new direction. As the facility disappeared in my mirrors, the sky ahead began to soften toward evening colors again. The kind of light that turns long asphalt lines into gentle rivers of gray and blue. I thought about all the loads I'd carried and would carry still. Most would be just freight, of course. Boxes, crates, machines, food, furniture, things going from somewhere to somewhere else. But every now and then, maybe, a driver gets to haul something more. A secret, a memory, a piece of someone's hope for tomorrow. Out there on the open road, with the tanks full, the engine steady, and the night sliding in once more, I felt a deep, quiet peace settle over me. I eased the truck up to speed, letting the hum of the engine and the hiss of the tires blend into a soft, steady lullaby. Above, the first stars began to appear, one by one, like distant marker lights in a sky-wide convoy. And as the miles unrolled beneath us again, I carried on me the truck, the empty trailer, and the lingering, gentle memory of a strange cargo that, just for one desert night, had shared the road with me like an invisible friend. For now, my story is over, but I still need some time to think. If you're still with me, stay. The road is long tonight.